Welcome to the Journey Principles, where we show you how to go from stuck to unstoppable with life strategies that work. Now, here's your host and creator of the Transform You framework, Stephen Scoggins.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins and my buddy here, Connor Kraft, Director of Connections for Journey Principles. If this is your first time here, so happy you stopped by. Our goal here is to give you life strategies that are simple, that work, period. We want to take you from stuck to unstoppable and take you from who you are today to who you're actually destined to be.
Yeah, who you want to be, but also you're destined.
Yeah, I say destined.
You might uncover your destiny along the way, and it might be
they're
something
gonna
completely different than what you think it is today. But
yeah, for sure.
It's always rewarding.
All right, Connor. So if you guys are new here as well, what we do is I typically will obviously say welcome, and then Connor will actually share with us what the topic for the day is, and I'm supposed to just go off the hat.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the last podcast, we talked about how to overcome and cure overwhelm, and we really discussed kind of the top ways and steps that you can do to actually overcome overwhelm. So if you're feeling overwhelmed at all, we recommend you go back to that. That was episode 3 of the podcast, that you check that out. And then obviously if you're brand new to the podcast, we recommend that you start from the beginning, because these first several podcasts are really meant to stack on top of each other to give you the fundamentals.
Pretty much everything we do is going to be that way. I want to give people a step-by-step journey over the next 365 days on how to transform their life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the goal. So today, we're going to be covering and really going deeper into a concept that we brought up on the previous podcast, which was the 8 pillars of life. And that's basically our way of bucketing the different areas of your life, from your professional and career life to your finances, to your fitness, to your relationships. We have our own way of segmenting life into 8 core areas, or we call pillars. And we're just going to review those because we think that it can be a really helpful tool for overcoming overwhelm.
To be honest, it's crazy to me because the first time I ever heard of a concept of bucketing your life into not 8 areas, but 7. I think it was 7 or 6. Was
it the Wheel of Life?
6 or 7 was Zig Ziglar's Wheel of Life, and I heard it when I was probably 18 or 19, and then a decade went by. And then our friends over at Ramsey Solutions had it as part of their program. Hey, look, and it was a snapshot kind of deal. And it reminded me how important it was to kind of focus this area. So what I did was I tried to take what I learned in life and I try to overlay it with my actual life and determine what actually worked, okay? So what we did is we went ahead and tweaked it for our own, and we have our own methodology behind it. And here's what I mean by that. So we added an 8th pillar or 8th area. And that one is life contribution or contribution.
It's life impact / contribution.
Yeah, basically. So essentially, the greatest purpose in your life, you guys have probably heard me say this for those who've been around a lot, the greatest purpose in life you'll ever have is serving the person you used to be, right? Right. In order to serve the person you used to be,
you need to become something more. And that means that by definition, 95% of our audience isn't going to immediately resonate with that greatest purpose. They're going to be like, well, that doesn't sound like my greatest purpose.
My greatest purpose is I need to eat this week. I've been there.
We understand there are real problems that you have, but eventually the point is that you get to the point where when you're starting to achieve life mastery, a couple episodes ago, we actually went through the 7 steps of life mastery. And once you get into that mastery phase or even the emergence phase, you really get to a point where you've pretty much got this handled for yourself in most of the major areas of your life, but it really becomes about how are you going to leave your mark on the world and make an impact and go for fulfillment.
Yeah, and I see far too many people when they think make an impact on the world, they think, how much stuff can I buy?
Yeah. Until they can buy anything, and then they realize,
and then it's completely empty and whatnot. But the other thing too that I think is missing a lot of times is most people, even though some of these concepts have been around for a long time, like anytime we teach you guys a concept that we learned either in part or fully from somewhere else, we will tell you where that piece of content came from.
Yeah, for sure.
And the reason we do that is to honor the person that actually led the way. We want to honor those folks. And on top of that, a lot of times there are things that we can build on top of it. So
for sure.
We're here to kind of fill in the gaps in a lot of things. But when it comes to the 8 pillars of life, one of my theologies that we have, and I'm gonna have you nail these in just a second, is I believe there's 2 structures. The reason I use 8 pillars and not a wheel is because they are built on top of each other. Right. And if you don't have one segment done first, it makes the other segment almost impossible to get corrected.
So you say structures, but you really mean 2 different kind of segments.
Yes.
And so there's if I understand correctly, there's a bottom section.
I call the first 4 foundational. So what do you have there?
The foundational ones?
So
I actually don't have them listed right here.
Yeah, so the foundational 4 are the ones that you've got to get rectified, put together, and ready to go before you do the other 4. And the first 4 are financial, spiritual, emotional, and physical.
Right.
All right. The reason being is because if your financial life is a complete wreck, it's going to take a toll on your emotional state. It's going to take a toll on your physical state. And there's a great chance it's going to take a toll on your spiritual state.
Right. Like if you don't have a lot of money, then there's something that's really messed up about the. Yeah. I've always said this. I don't know that it's actually true, but I've always felt like, how come the cheapest food is usually the food that's really bad for you?
Exactly.
That seems kind of messed up, because the people who are struggling financially, they don't really have as easy access to the best foods, the organic foods, the healthy foods, and it makes it much more difficult.
Which is why you got to be consistent in doing well with what you have. Right. So, I mean, a lot of the audience knows my story. Obviously, I was homeless for a while. Right. Made some bad choices of my own. Some bad circumstances, some other things. I'll be honest with you, I could have got off the street at any time. All I had to do was pick up the phone and swallow my pride. All right?
Wow.
But I didn't. And God taught me a lot of lessons, okay? But when it comes to digging out and going from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, you got to take the steps, right? So what we're doing with the 8 pillars of life today, the reason we're breaking this apart a little bit is so you actually have the steps that you need so you can actually take the steps you need to take, right?
Right.
So,
the information you need to know what steps you need to take next, and then
So, all right. So again, the foundational 4, the first 4 areas that we need to master, or at least get a level of competency in, are financial,
right,
spiritual, emotional, and physical. All right. And here's what I mean by that. Financial does not mean you need to be wealthy. Financial means you need to be in a good place of stewardship and stable.
So you're covering your needs. You're good enough to be at least comfortable enough to be able to start focusing on other areas that are.
And if you think about the financial thing, you're talking about being comfortable. For a season, to get your financial house in order, you may need to have 2 jobs. I had to have 3.
So is that an example of, like, if someone wants to, let's say, find the career of their dreams, but they're dead broke, okay, and they don't have that option for that career of their dreams on the table right now. They have to take care of their needs, their immediate needs, their financial pillar, before they can go find a job that fulfills them. I know you might be thinking, well, if you get locked into a job that you don't enjoy just to pay the bills, that's miserable. Yeah, it is for a little bit, but sometimes you have to do that to build your financial pillar to a level where, a lot of the most successful people in the world, you'll hear them say, like, I worked at McDonald's for a little period of time. People will say that, and I worked.
Dude,
there's nothing wrong with working at McDonald's at all.
There's nothing. Look, you got to start where you start, right?
Absolutely.
You got to do. The way I look at it is, you have to do what you must do until you can do what you want to do.
And don't let where you're at right now with, oh man, I have to live in this situation. I hate my job, but I have to do it because my finances are a wreck or whatever. Don't let that discourage you and make you think, okay, you're never going to be able to achieve that. Understand that actually comes first.
Yeah.
Be reassured there a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I
think that it kind of pivots on one of the other foundational 4, which is the emotional side. Far too often we give up right before we get started. Right? We never actually take the first step, because we don't take the first step, there's no second step to take, right? The emotional way in which you focus on things will actually predict your attitude towards how you handle yourself, right?
Yeah.
So what I like to do with all the pillars is I like to go through an assessment phase, right? I like to take a snapshot of where I'm at today. So step 1, where am I at today? I'll write out all 8 pillars. I'll literally put a 1 and then a 10, right? And then I'll choose a number in the middle, most likely, of an area or whatever that's actually really good. Meaning, for me, in this moment in my financial life, I did this on a whiteboard video that we did. It's a whole lot more in depth than what we're going to do here today. But I did, I think it was a 9, right? Financially, I'm currently in a really good place. I'm currently able to invest in things and do some things, do some creative things with money. And when I was not in this season of life, when I was in the homeless season of life, I didn't know how to make money work for me rather than me work for it, right? So there becomes a perspective switch as this kind of happens. That happens with confidence, which is where the emotional stuff comes into play.
Right.
Connor's right. You don't want to talk yourself out of an opportunity or talk yourself out of your future simply because you've never experienced it before. What you want to do is learn to dream about where you want to go, and then work with us so we can help you prepare the steps to get there.
And take the steps that you have in front of you.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of entitlement out there of, like, I need to go from 0 to multimillionaire overnight, and any steps in the middle are, a waste of time. I literally wasted a little bit of time trying to do that before I realized, I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
I have to take the next step ahead of me. There is no elevator to success.
I actually like that though. I've learned that some of the most motivated and successful people that I've met, that I've associated with, that have come from difficult backgrounds like myself, there was something about having your back against the wall.
Yeah.
Right? There was something about the warrior spirit, so to speak. And people like to say sometimes that not everybody has a warrior spirit. I disagree. I think everybody has a warrior spirit inside, and I think certain people can tap into it sooner, and which is why we did the whole 7 stages of life mastery, because you can tap into that warrior spirit like yesterday.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about with the 7 stages of life mastery is we cover this in the YouTube video where we cover that lesson in depth, but also in the podcast, we were talking about those 7 steps, but a lot of people are like, well, how long does it take to move through the 7 steps? Well, it can take anywhere between 1 year if you really kill it. Yeah. Probably a little bit longer than 1 year.
I'd say 1 to 5 years, or 1 to 50.
Or 1 to 50, or a lifetime. Some people never even answer the call and they never get anywhere through it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
So we want to help you do that. The 8 pillars are a way to get you there. It's a tool to get you there. Scale of 1 to 10. Look at where you're at today. How happy are you with your financial situation? Take into account, do you have debt? Do you have a savings plan? Do you have an IRA? Or do you have these things in place? Right? 1 to 10. Same thing with your physical pillar. I find that a lot of people that are really well off financially have horrible physical, like horrible health. Right. They're eating the wrong kind of stuff, going on a regular basis, all kinds of stuff. So,
and also, guys, just a quick side note: if you want a more detailed and structured version of this lesson we're talking about with the 8 pillars, we just yesterday, as the time of this being released, yesterday, if you go on YouTube, you should be able to find on our Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins channel, we did a whiteboard lesson and we covered these 8 pillars. So if you're being impatient with us kind of going all over the place in the pillars, just know that there is that.
And that's his way of saying, wrangle it in, Stephen, wrangle it in. All right, done. I'll wrangle it in. All right, financial pillar. Debt, cash flow, investments. Those are 3 key areas. Security. That's essentially what we're talking about. The foundational 4 are all about stability and security, which is why we call them the foundational 4, because when you build a house, you have to have a foundation. You don't have a foundation, you don't have a house.
Yeah, if your emotions or your spirituality, which that's not always religion, guys, that could just be your general sense of what is it? Resilience, faith,
perseverance, tenacity. All those things are what I would...
It's almost character traits.
It really is character traits. Now, I will tell you, my experience has been, again, we don't judge around this place. We love you, period, right? My experience has been that when you are connected to something greater than yourself, things in front of you that have to be conquered become easier to conquer.
I have noticed that as well. So yeah, definitely just keep that in mind with the spiritual pillar. That there are a lot of ways to do that through meditation, prayer, a number of things. We don't really care how you do it, but you have to have that sense of resilience and faith. You have to have your emotions in check. You can't constantly be depressed and then be expecting to transform your career. And then you also, if your health is in shambles, that's going to also ruin things as well.
I just thought about something funny, not funny, but something fun we did at one of our live events not long ago. We actually had we had everybody raise their hand. Let's say, if you woke up today a little tired, a little frustrated, a little this, a little that, raise your hand, and I'd like to invite somebody to come on stage. Right? Of course, we had a handful of people. End up selecting one guy. He comes up on stage, and I said, "Okay, so how do you feel today?" "Well, I'm tired and feel a little let down. Feel like things aren't going good." And da 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 da. I said, "How quickly do you think we can change that?"
Let me guess. You did something with his physiology.
Yeah. So
I've been watching too much Tony Robbins. I already know this.
Ironically, I forgot about it. He does that or do something similar. But I essentially brought him up on stage and I had him just say, "I'm worth it."
Yeah,
I'm worth it. And
you had him really change his body language and everything.
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even have to make him change his body language.
Really?
Right? All I said is, "Say I'm worth it." And of course, he starts off, and I'm saying, "Say it like you mean it."
Yeah.
And I kept doing that until such a time as he was screaming at the top of his lungs. And it just so happens it just made your shoulders come back and you're bold. And he literally looked up, and the next thing you know, I said, "How do you feel now?"
Yeah.
He said, "I feel amazing." The entire process took 15 seconds.
15 seconds, you can shift from a state of worry, overwhelm, hopelessness into confidence, clarity, and control, to a certain degree control of, I'm in control of my own life, my own destiny, I've got this.
There is, the studies have shown that there's tremendous power, and we're specifically trying to dig into deep a little bit to the emotional side, but there's tremendous power in being able to control and or change your attitude and your overall emotional state.
I'm sure we'll do a whole podcast on emotional states. We might even do a whiteboard lesson on it.
I probably should do that, huh?
We definitely should.
I have a lot of information on that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the structural 4.
Right.
Okay?
So the other 4 of the 8 pillars.
The other 4 of the 8 pillars, again, top 4, foundational 4, financial, spiritual, physical. What's the next one?
Emotional.
There you go. All right. Structural 4, relational.
Right.
Okay. We've got professional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we've also got contribution. What's the other one?
Right. Oh man,
come on,
you
you're
really
on the spot.
put me on the spot here.
Yeah, man.
What are we missing? Did we tackle
personal growth? Your favorite.
Personal
dude.
growth. That's right. God.
That's why I asked you.
I'm surprised. Yeah, personal development.
Connor's kind of a personal growth junkie.
I've spent way too much time there.
Hey, but now you're taking action, and now you're getting
That's
momentum
true.
and progress.
Yeah, I'd actually say my personal growth pillar is probably one of my strongest pillars. Just because I've spent,
knowledge-wise. Now, I will tell you, like I said, last episode, we talked about the 7 stages of life mastery, and one of those stages is obviously the maturity phase. You are becoming mature, and you're doing it fast. So I have no doubt that your emergence is around the corner.
All right, man. I'm
but
excited.
Anyway, all right, so let's talk about the relational just a little bit. So relational pillar could include a lot of different things, like a romantic relationship.
Right.
Okay. A friendship or acquaintance. Right, so you got a best buddy named Chad that lives out was it Wyoming?
Well, he lives in Wisconsin now. He's going to college up in Wisconsin, but then he was in Tennessee for a little bit, Arizona. Yeah. His parents move around a lot, so shout out Chad Picos.
Yeah, what up, Chad? All right, parental influences, like so your parental stuff, like your relationships, like how you deal with your parents, how you are parenting. Yeah. If you are a parent, obviously you're not doing that yet, thank God.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's not too far away. He's getting up there in age. He's like 23 now.
Careful.
Professional career, people that your coworkers are. I mean, you see the organizations I've tried to create. I try to put an environment where everybody can collaborate and get to know each other and actually be part of a family.
Right.
So that's an intentional thing that must be done. You got your next one, which are the guides and mentors. What kind of relationships? Like you and I have a tight relationship. Ours verges on a friend relationship,
like a friend and mentorship,
to a son to a father kind of thing from time to time, and then a mentorship. Like our relationship is a really cool relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm very, very thankful that you're in my life. The other kind might be an apprentice, like somebody that you may be
mentoring.
Exactly.
Right.
Now we've also said before, be ready to be in the place where you are able to be a great mentor.
Right. Yeah. There's too many life coaches out there who should not be life coaches.
Well, they still got some work to do on themselves, which is fine. Everybody's on their own journey, but
there's no problem if you want to be a life coach. It's just
even when you and I first started talking over it, several years ago, I started giving you a lot of content. You started applying some of it and stuff like that. Yeah. You reached out to some of your friends and you're like, hey,
That's
man.
True. That's true.
And they would come to me and it's like, okay, I don't know what to do. They made it this far and they're asking me this question. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's why I say be cautious. Be cautious with how you approach apprenticeship. Be cautious with how you approach specific steps you want somebody to take.
Sure.
Right. Make sure you got the information. Professional life is not just your career. Okay. Your professional life is how you develop your impact overall. So when I look at the professional pillar, I'm thinking hobbies. I'm thinking values, meaning how can I add value to the world? And more times than not, obviously I am thinking career aspirations. So I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I like business. I like doing things with business. I like building teams. I like building people, right? But a lot of my businesses aren't vertically integrated.
Right.
Okay. I got several construction related companies. I've got Journey Principles. This is more of I guess it's quasi personal development. We call Life Mastery, which is our focus, right? I've got some real estate holdings. I've got some things of that nature, right? So all these different things are attributes of my professional life, even though several of those things are not my main priority or focus. Okay. My real estate holding stuff is all passive, meaning I try to make a wise investment. I bought this live event center. Right, that is a piece of real estate that serves a value for all of my companies under one roof. But at the same time, it's also something that I help a church with. So a church is able to come and use the building on nights and weekends and whatnot to kind of make their stuff happen. So professional life could be a lot of different things. It doesn't just have to be career. It can be career. It can also be hobbies, or it could be a relatable impact in which you can exercise your value.
Well, and speaking of impact, we obviously have a whole separate pillar for impact as well, which also I think some of that goes into there, just for the sake of not confusing people.
This is true.
You know, you could look at impact as its own thing, and then the professional, if you want to look at it as your career and hobbies, what are you giving to the world? For most people, that's their job. But, you know, are you doing something you love? Are you doing...
Well, if you think about our executive director, Evan, for example. So yesterday was a really cool time where his current profession, right? He's a logistics genius.
Yeah.
Right? He's really good about organizing all kinds of stuff. He's
all the stuff I suck at.
Dude, he's worked for all kinds of amazing companies. Procter & Gamble, Blistex. I mean, the list goes on and on, right? Yesterday, when I walked in, he was actually mentoring and teaching you on a specific area that you asked him a question about, right?
Absolutely.
It's not directly tied to his profession. It's not directly tied to what he's going to get out of the job or get out of the engagement, right? It's tied to how much value he was able to offer. That can be developed in your professional pillar.
Okay, I see. So and through his experience, through his professional pillar and the skill sets that he's gotten and developed over the years, he's able to have that little bit of life impact and contribution, which is essentially
But it wouldn't fall into a hobby bucket. Like he loves doing awesome things with his kids on the weekends for hobbies. Yeah. And it doesn't really fall in his professional bucket. Now, what I did see is I was like, man, there's already a great leader who's already going to be a great teacher to our team.
You could also argue, and I don't want to confuse people, but you could also argue that hobbies could go into, like, to some degree emotional or spiritual, just in the sense that it could. I mean,
depending on how you look at it, for sure.
But
all right, so let's go into the seventh pillar, which is personal growth.
Sure.
All right, so personal growth is obviously our favorite. Personal growth has the ability to get you greater, further, faster, if you do it with persistence and consistency, right? However, I will tell you, right, for those of you who are probably watching on YouTube or something like that, or a friend shared this video with you, those of you who are in that particular area that were as far along as I was, which is the homeless category, and bringing that back up, it's going to be more difficult to focus on personal development because you have so much personal struggle.
Yeah.
Which is why we always say start with security and safety first.
Right.
And then build these other sides.
Well, yeah, and I mean, if your personal development is, the piece of advice I would give in this specific pillar, as someone who has a lot of experience in this pillar, overdoing it, I made that same mistake. I basically spent all my time learning before I was really like actually making moves with finance and my fitness and all these other areas of life that are very important. I was too busy focusing on learning all the information before. The one thing, if I could look back, I would say that I would advise to somebody who feel like your foundational 4 pillars are wrong is, if you're going to learn from somebody, we don't even care that it's us. We wish it would be us, but
we want to help. Serve.
I would recommend you don't go listen to too many sources. If you listen to like 100 different influencers, or even 10, or even 5 necessarily, you're going to get some conflicting information, and that can be very confusing. So, for example, in the health industry, you can look up the best diet, like look up ketogenic diet. Okay, for example. There is so much information that it's both good for you and bad for you. There's experts on both sides giving the opposite information.
Or different information.
Right. Also on personal development. There are people who are like, well, you should set really big goals. And there are others that are like, no, you need to set small, achievable goals. I think that if you make the mistake that I did and you go and just try to learn everything from everyone, which I admire that spirit. Trust me, I understand it. What's going to happen is you're going to start to get kind of confused, and you're going to get information overload.
Why do you think that'll happen? How do you know that's truth?
Because I experienced it.
There you go.
Big time. So because I almost would say that I learned too much.
Yeah.
Because that's a kind of a crude thing to say to a degree, but because I don't think you can ever really learn too much. It's the order that I did it in. I learned too much without application.
Exactly.
So anyway, just getting to the point real quick. I think that if you are in that spot where you're struggling financially, you're struggling with your basic things, and you don't have enough time to really spend on personal development, you don't know where to start, pick 1 or 2 people or influencers or online channels. It can be us. It doesn't have to be us.
I'd love to have
you. That you just pick them, and they are your source of information, and you just listen to everything they talk about. I would highly recommend doing that rather than listening to a bunch of different sources if you're just starting out. Because if you do that, then you're going to run into some of the problems I just said.
Absolutely.
Now, we got 5 minutes left. So.
Yeah, for sure. So look, on the personal growth side, all right, here's what I'd like everybody to consider. I want them to focus on security and safety first, okay? They get security and safety underway, meaning you are okay to start working on the second 4 pillars once you have a level of stability in your finances, health, spiritual life, and emotional life, right?
Yeah. If your health is
because
completely whack, you need to focus on that first.
Exactly. Because the second 4 will make the others stronger as you develop, okay? So that's what I like about personal growth as a whole. One, it's personal, right? It's up to you.
Absolutely.
Only you can research the information. Only you can take the action. Now, we've got all kinds of tools and resources and stuff like that to help you do those things. And we're happy to pick up the phone and talk to you or do a Zoom call or do something like that. Or, we're happy to answer the questions to kind of make those things easier, to make your personal growth journey easier, right? But it's still personal. So own it, okay? The last one is what I refer to as life impact. I used to refer to it as legacy, right? Here's the difference between what...
That would have been cool. We should have called it the legacy pillar.
Hey, we can call it legacy pillar.
Nah, we already have content. Let's not.
All right,
let's
so
not confuse
in
it. It's
2021, we'll call it the legacy pillar just for fun. I'll just start putting it out and like sending stuff out, and you'll watch Connor's head explode.
Yeah, I will freak out. I'll be like, dude, you're gonna confuse them.
It's not concise. No, and seriously, your life impact, your overall contribution is the overall legacy, right? I don't think you should be 90 years old or 80 years old or 70 years old before you figure out you want to do something that leaves this world a better place.
Absolutely.
Okay? I believe it should be top of mind after you've gotten some security, some safety and security, and part of your overall plan to develop your life. The reason I say that is because your life direction will be predestined based on your area of focus. And if you know where you want to go and where you're hoping to end up, it's much easier to retrace the steps, like going back to the growth framework, to actually get there.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
My life legacy goal right now, right, and it's been this way for 5 years since you've met me.
Your goal
is I want to transform 1 million lives.
Yeah.
Now, what does that look like?
Once we hit those million, we're gonna go to 10 million because I know you're gonna raise the goal.
Well, so here's, but I need to in a couple minutes we have left. I want to help you understand
literally 2. So
what that looks like. Okay, for me, right, a life impact and transforming 1 million lives means there's 1 million people that can say Journey Principles helped.
Yeah.
I'm further along than I was yesterday, and I'm headed towards the direction I want to go. And Journey Principles played a role.
Absolutely, and I love your heart for that, man. Because this guy, I've studied all the influencers under the sun, and I'm not saying that they don't care, but the thing that attracts me to you as my mentor is dude. You just have such a genuine heart. You care so much. I've seen him move to tears just imagining. Someone coming through and watching our content being transformed. So we're going to do our absolute best with all of our effort. Yeah. We're putting in the 16-hour days. We're doing our best too.
Yeah, it's 16-hour days.
It's like 7 p.m. here. Guys, come check out more of the content. We have a YouTube channel. Check it out, Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins.
Podcast.
Go to our website, journeyprinciples.com, journeyprinciples.com/resources. We have a lot of great information.
And we're still loading that stuff up. So.
Absolutely. and so like we recommend you go back, listen to the rest of the podcast, check out our YouTube channel, follow us on social, leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Do everything you can to get engaged with us. We're going to try to transform your life. We really care about it.
Amen. That's what we're after. Now, keep in mind, like, if you thought we hopped around a little bit, we did a little bit today. It wasn't intentional. We do have a whiteboard lesson specifically on the 8 pillars of life.
Yes, it's
that is a lot more concise and it will be a lot easier for you to follow. Now, we hope you enjoyed today's podcast.
Absolutely.
And you at least got you a start, at least got your brain thinking. But we got to end it. We love you guys. We believe in you guys. You're amazing. You can do this. Stay at it. Don't throw in the towel. You keep coming. Keep your questions coming. Your questions at journeyprinciples.com. Until then, we'll see you on the next Journey Principles. Take care, guys. Bye. I'll see you in the next video. And please, if you don't mind and you enjoyed the Life Mastery content we're building, consider hitting the subscribe button and also hitting the bell so you'll be the first to get notified anytime we release new content.